I'm going to basically take you through this. If you've got any questions as we go, please type them in because I'd like to stop and address things as we go. Otherwise, I can answer some questions at the end. And if for some reason we have technical difficulties, which does happen, I haven't quite got ultra-fast broadband here in Palmerston North, in my part of the city yet, I will attempt to reboot it and connect with you all. But we should be fine. Fingers crossed. So, looking at oral language. Let me just get my PowerPoint working here. So this is me. Talk at oral language. And what I've been doing basically for the last 7 years is working primarily in the area of oral language. I am really lucky. It's the only thing that I do. I have a business based here in Palmerston North called Tall Poppies Group, and we have lots of different things going on within the business. There's extracurricular teaching, which involves working with drama and public speaking and general communication assistance for kids. The other arm of the business is this professional development that we do into schools, and at the moment throughout the country we've got 19 different schools running our programs. But on top of that, there's opportunities for me to speak to different groups of people, to teachers, to do PD, to talk to parents, lots and lots of different things going on. So I'm really passionate about this business because at the end of the day, talking is what makes us human, what separates us, I often say, from other animals on the planet. It's the one thing that we do and that we need to maintain as we go into this really amazingly fast-moving digital age. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the background, some of the progressions that you need to think about in terms of your teaching, and we're going to cover off how to keep the lens on oracy. The idea is that oral language is happening lots of different ways in your classrooms and in your schools. But what we've discovered is that it's a difficult thing to measure, it's a difficult thing to assess, and with the teaching models that we're used to working with, that often makes it a difficult thing to teach and to plan for. So I've come up with a model that works. It fits straight in over the top of everything else that you're doing. So, hello from Tokoroa North, that's very nice. So I just talked a little bit then about how it's come about. But at the end of the day, what we know about oral language is that it is actually, it's important. The progression in our classroom is talk, read, write. Kids are often arriving into our classrooms in that new entrance phase, and some anecdotal data is telling us at the moment that some kids are arriving with a language acquisition age of a 3-year-old. And on that day one, those new entrant teachers, those of you out there will know this, you'll be very familiar with this. You've got to hit the ground running. And if kids don't come with language in their talk, it's very hard to get them to start to read, and it's even more difficult to get them to start to write. So if oral language isn't a firm base, then it's really difficult to move on to those other things that you guys are working so hard to do in the classroom. We also know that it links to reading and writing success. And while there hasn't been a lot of New Zealand studies about this at this point in time, we see this in overseas, particularly the United States and Australia. A lot of evidence-based research around oral language acquisition and its direct links to reading and writing success. And, you don't, as teachers who are out there working in a classroom day to day, you don't need to read the research to know that this is a truth. So we know that oral language is important from that perspective. But we also know that you guys are doing it every day in your classrooms. Sometimes I will go, on the odd occasion, I'll go into a school and I might say to the principal, tell me about oral language in your school. And the principal might say, oh, yes, we've got lots of it going on. We have speeches in term 3 and the juniors say poems. And yes, lots of oral language. And while those two things in themselves are really good and really solid ways of demonstrating oral language, Oral language is so much more than that, and that's where the way I've approached it, we've broken it down so that we're looking at it from an achievable perspective. Because those kids in your classroom that are great at speeches, now if I could see you and I asked you to put your hand up and say, do you know right now who is going to win the speech competition at your school this year? Or do you know who the top 3 would be? My bet is that you would be able to say yes. Now my question to you is, did you teach them those skills, or did they come with some of them? Did they come with a lot of them? And I would be so bold as to suggest you have taught them how to write their speech, but you probably haven't spent a lot of time teaching them how to deliver and how to connect from an oracy perspective. So what we've got to be careful about is that we don't think we're doing oral language when we have these formal opportunities to present. Okay, so those things, that tells us it's really important. Now here's just some really interesting information for you. Now we did a poll. Now we know that 9 out of 10 schools do not formally assess or report on oral language development. Now I don't know about the schools that you guys are in, but I would hazard a guess based on the information that we've collected that there isn't, oral language doesn't have an even reporting quotient compared to your numeracy and your literacy. So if you're thinking about on those reports that you give to the school that go home, or in the interviews or the student-centred interviews, whatever you like to call them at your school, I bet you that very little time is spent reporting back to parents on oracy. And the reason why that is because we don't have a good model to assess it. So, and that is pretty much the crux of the problem. We also know that oral language struggles to fit within those current assessment models, so that's just what I was saying. We don't have, until recently, the Talk It program has developed a model that fits with it, but it's really difficult if you haven't got that. So it's difficult to plan, it's difficult to see progress, and all of us in our teaching contexts, we need to see that progress, and kids need to understand where they're heading, what their next steps are with their oracy. They know it with their reading, they know it with their numeracy, but they probably don't know what else they need to improve on when it comes to their oral language skills. So that's really why we're not seeing it being really strong in the classroom. The other thing, now the first program that I piloted the Talk It Oral Language, the first school that I piloted the Talk It Oral Language program, and I went in there, full of energy, ran the teachers through, had a whole day workshop actually, and the feedback, the first question I got pretty much at the end of the day was a teacher put their hand up and said, "Hey Del, this is fabulous. I can really see it working. When am I going to do it? And what do you want me to stop doing?" And I was like, okay, that's a very good point. And at the end of the day, you guys in your classrooms and in your schools are so busy. You're chocker up to here with curriculum and all the other things that you've got to do. And, I think in lots of ways it's a really, really difficult job. I mean, you've got to do everything. You teach them to read, teach them to write, teach them to be safe around dogs, to swim, to cross the road, to eat healthily, everything. And then on top of that we're saying, hey, come on, you need to focus on oral language. It can be quite daunting. So the way you need to think about it is it's not another specified curriculum area that you're stopping to teach. It's something that's going in and amongst every aspect of your teaching throughout the day. And that is the only way that it will work. And of course it will work because it does link with everything. You talk in numeracy sessions, you talk when you are talking about your books, you're talking about science. Talking is integral. But if you've got a model, then you can actually make your way forward. So they were the things that we found the biggest problems. The next thing to have a wee, there we go. The next thing to have a wee think about is, what do students who have poor oracy skills look like? Okay, So have a wee think about your students. Just like any, you could probably group them into those that struggle, those that find it easy, those that kind of muddle through, and those that are emerging. And the thing that we've discovered about all of this business is that for the most part, it doesn't necessarily always, the poor oracy skills don't necessarily always show themselves in our lower decile schools. Now the case in point here is the very first school that we put a Talk It Oral Language program into was King's School, Remuera in Auckland. You know, it's on Remuera Road there, it's probably decile 27 if there's such a thing. And when the rector said, Dale, when can you start? I was like, well, seriously, do you really need this? This program wasn't designed for you guys. And what I came to learn over the next 2 years is that those boys in that school need a focus on oracy just as much as anybody else, because they have access to every piece of technology that there is available on the planet. A lot of them have parents who are away a lot of the time. Some of the boys who are starting school there have been brought up by a non-English speaking au pair. So you can see, while the cause is different, the output is exactly the same. So the whole challenge with oracy runs right through every area of our communities. And we see it even as the children move on to high school. You know, NCEA Level 1 has an oral report, a presentation for English that kids have to do. Now, the Tall Poppies Teaching Academy, every year we get an influx of smart kids who come for extra tuition because they cannot do it. They can do everything else, and they need an excellence in that oral presentation, and they don't have a skill set because they have never been given the competencies. They don't understand how to break down the skills. They don't understand how to learn to talk well. So let's just have a really quick look at this list here. I'm going to be quiet for a second, but I want you to have a look down here. Low functioning oral language indicators. Okay, so a whole lot of things here that demonstrate to us what we would be able to see, which would show us that some of our students have some struggles in terms of oracy. So the question is, we can identify them. Now, what do we do about it? So this is where I want to take you through the basic approach. Now, this webinar is free, and at the end of it I'm going to tell you a little bit about the program. But what's most important for me is that whatever you do, you decide within your school or within your classroom to make a change and really put a focus on oracy. So whether it's Del Costello and the Talk It Oral Language program, or you decide to put a team on it in your own school, or look to the wider marketplace, this business is too urgent to ignore. Okay, so here is the way to go about it. The elephant. It's a very big area. So you can only get there by eating the elephant one bite at a time. You're not going to be able to make instant change, but if you get started, you will see it evolve. And you guys are used to that. You know, we plug away at it, and then all of a sudden we think, gosh, look how far these kids have come. On a day-to-day basis, it's like watching your own children grow. You only notice they've got taller because they've grown out of their pants. Okay, so you need to be consistent and excuse me, and make sure that the skills are in your classroom every day, and you need to plan for it. Now here is the basic premise. This is how it works. The basic facts of oracy is fluency. So you think basic facts of numeracy, you know about all of that stuff, basic facts, the things, the essential skills you need to be able to read, and even writing. You arrive to school, you can't hold a pencil. The first thing you've got to do is show the child how to hold the writing instrument. Without fluency, oral language stalls. And the idea about this is that I have a thought inside my head and it comes out my mouth. It comes out the way that I want it to be, that makes the connection and the communication that I wanted. So I'm not just keeping ideas in my head, I'm able to be fluent. And then it progresses on to, I'll just roll this up here. We break the elephant straight down the middle. One, informal oral language, the other part, formal oral language. Now, formal oral language is everything that we do that would be prepared for an audience. Informal oral language is everything else. Talking to your friends, talking to your teacher, solving problems, asking questions, having discussions. All of those great things that are happening in your classroom are around informal oral language. The formal are your speeches and your poem and your performance and your drama and all that stuff that you prepare to share with an actual audience. So you can see if we've got the basic facts underlying all of this, and we approach informal oral language first, and then we can get good at formal oral language. This is the way to approach it. Because some students or some kids will arrive to you and they'll already be good at informal oral language because they come from a home where people talk and, you know, and a lot of it is genetic too. They're not intrinsically shy or anxious. They have those skills. So that's when you can get on to the formal oral language. But at the moment, what I'm seeing in most schools is that the kids that are good at the formal stuff come to us with those skills. We're not teaching them to them. And I believe that this whole oracy business, the business of talking, anybody can be good at it. And it actually doesn't matter if you're a good writer or you're a good reader. You can be a great talker and still struggle with those two other competencies. And let's face it, some kids, some adults will never be great readers. Some will always struggle with writing. No matter how much effort and energy we put into them as teachers, it's something they're going to always struggle with. But if they can become fluent communicators, they will be successful at what they choose to do. So everything dovetails together. Okay, so let's just have a look at fluency. I'm going to give you some ideas that you can start working with pretty much straight away. Speech fitness. Gosh, that's terrible. That wasn't a very good example of that. Let me try again. Speech fitness and development. So if you don't have this, it's like trying to write with a blunt pencil. I know how to hold the pencil. I know what the pencil does, but the pencil won't work for me. So if we go back to a whole lot of really sort of traditional, old-fashioned things, tongue twisters. If you go to, and at the end I'm going to give you some links. If you go to my YouTube channel, there's some clips on there about fluency. There's and if you follow me on Twitter, I send stuff out all the time. You can go onto YouTube and find some great speech exercises that you can play. Most of our talk at schools play them for 2 minutes. 2-minute mouths or something, and they're really getting the kids moving their lips, their tongue and their jaw. Because if you haven't got much going on around here, it's really hard to actually even have a conversation with anybody because, you know, you're not communicating. That's really important. Of course, there's some things here to tread carefully around in terms of speech language therapy and how you can help and support that, and when do you get kids assessed and how do you implement those programs, but that's a conversation for another day. Word association games. How much fun are these? Look, just reinvent the things that you knew at school. We play the random word game, round the circle. Say the first word that comes into your head. So it's dog, fish, monkey. Around we go. It's taking an idea out our mouth. We're not judging it. We're not thinking about it. We're just making it nice and clear. And you can make them much more complex too as you go. And lots of other games and activities that will get that fluency working. The Talk It program has loads of these things in it. Okay, so informal oral language, we're going to skip to that now. These are things like explanations, discussions, pair and share, and conversations. So if you've got a framework to assess and to plan against, then these things are easy. So say for example a discussion. So we know what a good group discussion looks like. So everybody's participating. We're looking at each other. I can hear what you're saying. I'm thinking, I'm listening so that I can respond. I'm thinking about what I know. So you could easily create a matrix or whatever you do in your school, which is around the competencies just to do with informal oral language. In the Talk It program, of course, we have, can you see that? We have matrices all set up which are great and provide the teacher, provide you with the progressions right through from year 0 through to year 8. We're looking to now at formal oral language. So again, speeches, talks, oral reports, poetry, and some elements of drama. Drama can be informal as well, and it's a great, if you've got lots of drama going on in your school, you know, it provides a great platform for practicing talking. Okay, so if you're thinking about what you're going to do in your school to really put a focus on oral language, here's my suggestions. You need tools for development that don't require additional time during the day. So all of those things that I've kind of covered, you can see how they will lay over the top of your existing curriculum work. So you're not going to have to go out and plan a whole lot of new stuff. You just have to integrate it into what you're doing. Now I am realistic. To start with, you know, you have to teach some frameworks and invest a little bit of time and a little bit of energy into setting it up so that the students can talk about oracy. They know their next steps. But it's just like any of our other teaching areas. Once they know, our kids are really good they're really great learners. They understand where to take themselves, but with oracy, if you haven't given them that, how do they know? So that's really important. So strategies for all curriculum areas, a really simple planning structure. The most successful schools I've seen out of the Clutches schools that the Talk It program runs in is where they have a concentrated team effort. So the junior team, the middle team and the senior team. And each term they take a focus on oral language and they really make sure they support each other and stick to their guns when it comes to working it through the curriculum. And they're the schools that are really starting to see some difference. And again, the assessment model. Ask yourself, can we report back to parents about oracy? And if the question's, oh, no, not really, well then why not? And what do we need to do in order to do that? Because parents are desperate for this stuff too. And if you can guide them, if they know what good looks like in terms of oral language, they might not be good at it themselves, but they definitely can guide their kids to be better at it too. And the assessment model, of course, will help the kids to take responsibility for their own learning. And again, that reporting, it's really important. Okay, so what are we going to do with you now? I want, if there's any questions, pop them in, start popping them in now. What we're doing is we're going to start having a look at some of the things that you can start doing tomorrow. Fluency activities in your classroom. They only need to take a few moments, and in that little bit of downtime you've got, you know, everything's finished and we've still got 2 minutes or 5 minutes till lunch, throw in some oral language fluency activities in that time. You'll find it makes all the difference. I was in a new entrant class out at a school here in the Rangitikei called Martin School, and it's a low decile school. I think it might be a 2 or a 3, and I was working with the new entrant teacher, and we'd introduced, her idea was to introduce that game that she loved when she was a kid, which I went to the supermarket and I bought a fish, and then the next person says I went to the supermarket and I bought a fish. You probably all know that. And these were for 5-year-olds. This is the complete new entrant class. And I thought, oh, it might be a bit tricky, but let's try it. Well, we started off and you know, it was very claggy, it was very sticky, and it was really difficult. She helped them and coached them all the way through. And I went back 6 weeks later and I honestly could not believe my eyes. She had a group of 10 new entrant kids and they were going around the circle twice and remembering the list. They had big clear voices, they made connections with the items that they'd just been said, and their memories were really engaged. I was just like, I can't believe I'm even seeing this. I mean, granted, she had a couple of kids who were first dayers and, you know, they're hanging off the curtains and just managing all of that at the same time, like you do. But I guess my point with that story is don't underestimate what kids can achieve in terms of oracy. It's just about activating that language centre in the brain. We're designed to do it. And those children that arrive to your class, if you've ever seen them, the little chatterboxes who are listening and thinking and rephrasing and coming back to you and talking to you all day long, they weren't necessarily born like that. They've just had plenty of practice. So there's no reason why the child that doesn't have that and all the other elements are even, can't get to the same level as that bubbly, chatty, highly communicative kid. There's no reason why that can't happen. And starting out with fluency is a really good way to go. Here's the next challenge. Always have an oral language learning intention in your classroom. Always, always. Start to make oracy visible in your classroom. Talk about the skills with your students. And again, they'll start taking responsibility. And my heart jumps for joy when I go into a classroom and I see, you know, you guys are so good at making such beautiful resources, and classrooms look just absolutely gorgeous and engaging, and really, really strong learning environments. When I go into a classroom and I see numeracy, literacy, oracy, it's up there on a pedestal with the other really important things, and I believe that's where it should be. So have a wee look around your classroom today and see if there's anything. Have you got anything that refers to oral language? So start incorporating that. Some of you may have some great things going on, but the things I've seen in absolutely fabulous, dedicated, hard-working teachers, it's something we forget. So make a space for it. Make it a really important part. You have the kids talking about oral language as well. We've talked about that a little bit. Now this is just another little thing which I notice a lot when I go into observations, particularly in the junior school. So you've got, let's say you've got some news sharing or something going on, and James has brought along something to share, and he stands up and he's got a really quiet little voice like this, and you know that the rest of the class can't hear him. What we see a lot of is the teachers will clarify for him and tell the class what he is doing or what he has said. So this, I've seen so many people do it, and it's really to take that pressure off our friend James with his, and he wants to share his thing, but he can't, hasn't got the vocal energy or the confidence to get his voice to go way out. So my suggestion is ask them to clarify for themselves. Now, if you would say to him, oh, James, that was really interesting. I don't think the rest of the class heard that. Did you hear that down the back? Oh, no. Can we say it again? And he'll go, So you heard it. You understand it. Now you tell him what to say. So you would say, oh, James, why don't you say, this is the picture of me with Grandad fishing. And then hopefully, you know, if you coax him enough and you encourage him enough and you make him feel safe enough, he will say, this is the picture of me and Grandad fishing. So you've given him the words to say, just as you would write down the sentence for him to copy. So it's the same activity with the same basis. So that's really important. And we see a lot of parents who do this. I've probably been guilty of it in my time. Someone asks the child a question, who answers? The parent. So what do you do if that's happening, you know, when you're talking to parents and children together? Well, it's not about ignoring the parent, it's just about repeating and asking the child to answer. And just really encouraging them and empowering them to have a voice, and getting students and kids to understand that not doing it is not an option. I will help you, I will support you, I will even tell you what to say, but you have to say it. No point just thinking about it, you have to say it. And it's a really empowering tool, and their confidence will grow really quickly with that. Okay, here we go, the last thing. Put oracy in your professional development calendar. Even if it's not getting someone like me in to come and talk to you, put aside some time in your meetings just to focus on oral language. There are actually heaps of great resources out there, and the internet, of course, the world is our oyster. But start creating a resource pack for your school that's going to help and support your teachers to be great oracy teachers. Okay, so how are we going for time? Any questions coming through would be really great if you just pop them into the question box, or you can pop them into the chat box. Questions are, yeah, great. Looks like nice. Bet it's a lot warmer in Sydney today than it is here. Okay, so next up, I want to tell you about what the Talk It Oral Language program. Because normally when I go into a school and talk face to face, I put all this stuff at the end, and while I said before it's not a sales pitch, it isn't, but I want you to really get a thirst for this. I want you to understand that this is so important, and whether it's the Talk It program or something else, you need to get out there and get on with it. Sorry, there's a frog. Okay, so you're going to improve literacy, thinking skills, and citizenship. So literacy we understand. Thinking, talking about our thoughts, talking about our ideas helps solidify them. It helps to create structures in our head, which helps us to be able to communicate those structures, whether it's writing a report or making a poster or a PowerPoint or any of the things that you use to report on inquiry. Thinking skills are obviously really important. And this third thing, I think, is sometimes underestimated: citizenship. Now, people who can communicate are better citizens. They can solve problems. These kids are much more capable at making friends and developing strong relationships. They're able to express their needs. They're able to talk through problems. So not only are we helping their literacy skills and their thinking, but we're also helping them to be better, more connected citizens, and I think that is a really powerful thing to think about. The oral language program, basically, if there's some kind of investment or some kind of plan or strategy, you are creating within your school an ongoing commitment to oracy teaching, and becoming a school that is known and reaps the reward of oracy is something that is pretty special. Okay. Vocab. If I had $1 for every time a teacher says to me, and I say to them, what's the biggest challenge for you at the moment? Vocab. Working on vocab. We're trying to get vocab up. Well, and my question is, what have you been doing around oral language? And we get that, yeah, heaps of stuff. Doing a bit of think, pair, share, and talking and chatting and discussion groups. But without the structure, it's really hard for the students to make all that meaningful. So in vocab, my question, why would a child write something if they don't say it? I think it's a really good question. And sometimes I read these pieces of writing and wow, they're fabulous. Really descriptive, being able to really fulfill everything that's asked of them from a writing perspective. And then you talk to the child and I'm looking at this kid thinking, God, did you write that? Their oral language skills, they're not congruent. So the two things need to go hand in hand. And you imagine if you can say a word and use it in everyday speech, talking, you're going to put it in your writing. So it is going to increase vocab. It's going to assist in underachievement. Obviously, you know, in terms of underachievement, in terms of when we're thinking about those national standards and knowing that we want kids to be progressing, Oracy is underlying, it's supporting it. It's helping those students and kids that arrive to us without the skills to be able to step up and start to achieve on all levels of the areas that we work with them on. The other great thing about it, of course, is going to be extension for those kids that have really got it already. So how fabulous. Imagine a world where you've got a classroom of year sixes who are debating at the level of year 9 students. Now we see this in talk at schools where they've had the core skills have built and built and built, and their confidence is built on every single day. And when you hit that persuasive writing module, whatever you want to call it, unit, with your writing, you should be able to completely slot in beside it a debating context, oral debate. And the Talker program has ways to integrate that really easily as well. But how fabulous for those kids to hit high school being great debaters already, working with informal structures and rules. They love it. They absolutely love it. And of course, as I mentioned before, it's providing building blocks for research and inquiry learning. All makes sense. Without Oracy, all of these things are that much harder. So let's just quickly tell you a little bit about what comes with the program. This is my little salesy bit, so don't be put off, don't run away, but wait, there's more. What you get is resources, assessment models, online exemplar, teaching sequences, as well as training. We have a toolkit manual, but there's also, it's fully loaded onto a user-based website, and on that website there are a load of exemplar which were originally designed for the teachers, but what we're seeing is they're being used in the classrooms as well. So what does a good discussion look like? Can we a demonstration of great listening skills? So we all know if you show the students what good looks like, it's so much easier for them to get there. And that, to me, has been one of the challenges with Oracy, is it's really difficult to see competency. And so if you can play it through your technology and get them to look at it, you're 10 steps ahead of everyone else. The program will provide you with consistency in teaching and learning school-wide. So it's going to be a cultural change and I guess a foundation shift in the way that you approach Oracy. So it's not necessarily, the best way to approach it is not a quick fix, because you can come in and spend a focus on it for a term and it's going to make some difference. But if you're taking a long-term approach, it's like a vaccine. We want this going through everybody. So if you're year 0 students and start school with the Talker program, imagine what they're going to be achieving by the time they get to year 6, 7 and 8. And because the models are the same all the way through the school, just adding different competencies to things, you're not having to, as a classroom teacher, you're not having to reteach or come up with your own strategy. It's like, well, hey, you remember last year when you were in year 2, these were the things that we did. Now we're going to be adding to these. So they've got frameworks and scaffolding that they're familiar with, which just really enables them to get on with getting better at it. And guarantees maximum results without putting extra pressure on your team. So it takes me way back to the beginning, to that teacher that said to me, hey Del, what do I stop doing? When am I going to do this? So there's an investment in your thinking time and your planning time, but not in your classroom time, because all of it weaves in amongst the curriculum that you're already working to. And I can give you great advice about funding options too, because that's often, if I'm really honest, it's like, yay, we want this, how much is it? Well, of course, it is a commercial program and it does cost some money. So that's something to have a bit of a look at. I'm just going to give you an idea because it's fair to have a bit of a peep. So you could put a full program in place from $3,000. And the schools that we're in Some of them have spent less than that. We've got a little school out on the coast down here called Weber, a little country school, and their program costs significantly less than that. So it depends on how many teachers and how many students you have, and quite frankly, I'm quite prepared to cut cloth, to fit. You can do workshops from as little as $1,200, keynotes for communities. So quite often I've done sort of almost fundraising events, so I'll come down and speak. I'm a great speaker. I love to talk to people, and you can charge your community and make some money while you're at it. You can buy resources from as little as $49. We have the Clear Speech program and then the Talk It Oral Language program as well. And there are funding options. I'm a foundation trust board member on the New Zealand Oracy Trust, which is an organisation set up this year to be able to provide funding support for schools and organisations who don't have the resources to fund oral language programs. So if you think you're one of those schools and you are keen to talk to New Zealand Oracy Trust, do let me know and I can put you in touch with those details. A lot of our schools have got funding from the likes of REAP, the Rural Education Program, or even local community funding as well. What you find is when you go out there looking for funding to support this workshop, it's not a hard sell. I've not yet come across anybody in the funding world who said this is a waste of time, because we know that it's not. It's just about being smart. If you can't fund it out of your school budget, there are ways to do it. And I'm really happy to help you out with that. Okay, so near the end, these are all the bits and pieces where you can follow me. So I'm an avid blogger. I try to blog quite often about different bits and pieces relating to oral language. Twitter, I am on the World Wide Web looking for stuff about oral language all the time, so let me be your research assistant. So follow me on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn as well. I'd love to link in with you if you're a LinkedIn person. The YouTube channel there is great. We've just put up a new clip which is designed for you. It's free, completely free, but for you to show parents of new entrant kids what some of the things that kids should be able to do in terms of oracy before they start school. So it's pretty low key. It runs for like 6 or 7 minutes, but it lists off some of the things that we really like to see, because a lot of them are really simple, and if parents get onto it at home, it makes your job a heck of a lot easier. Visit talkit.net.nz. That has lots of information on it as well, but you can purchase the Talkit manual or the the Clear Speech program, and outside of this. If you want are really keen on a program for the whole school, best to get in contact with me. I can come and see you. I can set up an individual webinar with your team just so that you can suss out whether or not it's what's going to work. Some schools start off just with their juniors. Some schools roll it out to everybody. It's just whatever way works best for you. I'm really happy to give it a try and see what we can work out. So we've still got a couple of spaces left for our January PD season, which is always very popular. But and I am the presenter. It's just me, and I just try my best over that period of time to work as hard as I can to get into as many schools as possible. So that's your webinar today. That's me, Del Costello, Principal, founder of Talk It Oral Language Program for Schools. Hey, it's been my absolute pleasure to have you at this webinar today. If you've got any questions, I haven't had any roll through, but I guess I'll think that that's because I've covered everything off. But it'd be really nice to get some feedback from you as well. I'm sure you'll get an email shortly asking you for that, or feel free to type in the little questions box. I'll be hanging around here for the next few minutes, and I'm more than happy to do that. So that's me signing off from Palmerston North, New Zealand. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you have a really great week ahead. Thank you.